On this Football Friday, CFL on TSN's Paul LaPolice joins us. The guys were telling me that he is in. It don't look like an airport to me, Lapo. I heard you were going to be in an airport when you came on the show today.
Yeah, I changed my flight to get a little bit more work. It's a short week for me also. So I said, you know what, I'm leaving now at 6 o'clock to head over to Toronto.
Okay, well, I appreciate you with some time and a very busy weekend. They're calling it the best football weekend of the year. CFL Week 14, back end of the Labor Day games, college football Week 2, NFL kickoff. So it's all awesome, but my first question for you is this. Hamilton, Ottawa tonight. Jim Barker was on last hour, and we're kind of having a tough time deciding which way to lean on this. Ottawa's got the rest, 11 days off. Hamilton only 3, but Hamilton's getting better. What's your read on this game tonight?
Yeah, a couple of points. Hamilton, when they had their success against BC to win the football game, they're able to run the ball with Butler. Ottawa's the best in the CFL at stopping running the football. So I think it's going to be hard sledding for them, and they're going to have to let Powell throw the football. So, but that's been a struggle for Ottawa, is giving up the deep passes. So hopefully the bye week helped Ottawa with that. But I got to think, I heard you saying that Barker likes Ottawa after the bye. I would say the same thing. You have so much time to prep. You're healthy. You're getting some players back. And you're not playing on a short week banged up. So I think Ottawa's at home, so I'm going to go with Ottawa.
Okay, well, as are the odds makers. So you guys all know what you're doing. That's why I do what I do, sit here and talk, and you guys analyze.
Yeah,
Jordan
right.
in Regina. Yeah, regarding the Banjo Bowl, Jordan writes in and says, the Riders won the Labor Day Classic when the entire city of Winnipeg becomes fixated on the Banjo Bowl. I respectfully submit, the city of Winnipeg's always fixated on the Banjo Bowl. It's always sold out, Lapo. I don't think last week's result had anything to do with that.
Yeah, it's such a great experience. I remember talking last week on the panel about it. Like, when I first came into the league, I did 2 years in Toronto, and 2 years in Toronto, we had 2 Labor Day Classics, were outstanding games playing Hamilton. But I remember when I went out for the first time for the Labor Day Classic, I was just amazed at the fans of Regina and just amazed at the fans of Winnipeg over the course of those games when those teams played people back to back. It's just such a great experience, similar to the SEC football. And how many times I said this last week on the panel, you got to throw out the records. I was, as a head coach, feeling real good about myself. My second time as a head coach, we are, I believe, 7-1. In 2011, Saskatchewan's 1-7. The Bombers feel like they need a billboard to say, basically, you're screwed up, Regina. You got it backwards. We go out there and we lose 27-7. So you just don't know what's going to happen through the course of the game. So it's just such a great rivalry, and I love being part of it.
Well, these weekends and this talk brings up memories. You weren't just going against 42 guys in green and white. Grandpa Miller was back. Your boy. Good morning, Riders. Remember that? The Dallas Cowboys couldn't have beat the Riders on that Sunday at Taylor Field.
Yeah, and then certainly being part of the 2007 Labor Day Classic, where we're just getting ready to kick a field goal and we want to be protected and we're going to kick a field goal to win the football game. And I remember Kent Austin going, hey, why don't we call this quarterback redraw we had, and that'll handle in case they blitz us. They blitz us. Kerry keeps it right up the middle, goes for a 30-yard touchdown to win the game. Those are great memories. On the Winnipeg side, I remember one time my family came out to a game, and they were really late to the stadium because I think that was a game, and that might not have been the Banjo Bowl, but I think it might have been it was the Banjo Bowl, when a moose was loose in the city of Winnipeg. It caused a traffic jam before the game. Unbelievable.
Not shocked, not for a second. David Asplin writes in from Winnipeg and says, I just want to personally say, Lapo, thank you for helping Winnipeg get the Grey Cup in 2019. Best moment taking it in with my dad. Personal messages from David Asplin. I'm assuming you know what he's referring to. Now, the other thing is guys get geeked up in these games and do dumb things. Jim Barker had his thoughts last hour on Pete Robertson, says he didn't even know who he was headbutting. He just got up and wanted to hit somebody. What is your take on Pete Robertson's brain cramp in the Labor Day Classic that drew a 1-game suspension for headbutting?
Yeah, my take on it is, you can only judge the action. You can't judge his intent, and I know I've heard he's a great kid and all that, but when it comes to this, you just got to judge the action that happened. And the action that happened on the field is, you can't do that. It's inexcusable. And the league wanted to make sure these things are stopped. And, he should have been thrown out with a rough play disqualification. That's what I was kind of upset about. Like, I felt that basically if it was missed on the field, the command center has the right, it's always been in the right for protection of football players, that they can say, hey, we saw a rough play disqualification. It's called from the command center. That's what I wish would have happened. And then the suspension the following day. Difficult mistakes. And here's an interesting point, Rob. There's been a lot of people saying, well, I've seen online people showing clips of other games and things that happened a couple years ago. And here's the important point. Some of those clips might be from 3 years ago. And I remember being, as the head coach of Ottawa, I was on the rules committee where we said in 20 and 21, in the rules committee, we are going to eliminate these things. We want the officials to be more stringent calling this stuff. We want them to be protecting the players more. So, maybe something that wasn't called in 18 or 19, it should definitely be called now as we want to protect the players. So, I sometimes think the home team always, whether it be Winnipeg, Sask, Hamilton, Toronto, is trying to protect their own players, but it should be just protecting for safety for all the players.
I agree. But I think when you were in Winnipeg in the 2000s and I was with the Riders, Lapo, there could be people charged with assault now if you went back and looked at the film of some of those games, what they were doing to each other. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, absolutely. But again, we're at a time where, we've kind of learned from those mistakes. And I talked about it last week on I think at halftime on the panels. And, that's why in the NFL and in major college and now in the CFL, we wear the foam caps. They have to protect players' heads. So, we're just smarter and understanding how to protect people more. So, yeah, I cringe to think of some of the stuff from the year 2000s or when I played football, how different the game was. But, hopefully these things are making it easier to protect, players and make sure guys have long careers.
Yeah. Well, those were just absolute street brawls. And we still kind of have them, but nowhere near what that was. Hey, moving on. A nice lady in Edmonton, Rose, wrote in a while back. No, it was Mandy from Edmonton who wrote in and said, what do you see for the second half for the Edmonton Elks? And I think this is going to be like a drag strip to the end for everybody, particularly the West, but also the East. And I think Edmonton's in it. What do you think Edmonton can be looking forward to? Just, the fans for that team in the second half.
Yeah, first and foremost, they've got the ability. All the teams in this lower bracket, I would say, it doesn't really matter because there's so many of them with the records they have. So anybody can go on a run and either claim the last crossover spot or one of their last playoff spots. So that's the first thing for the Edmonton Elks organization is they have hope because they just keep winning a game. Take it one game at a time. They've got a young quarterback who's got to learn. They're starting to play better defensively. They just got a young team. So if Chris can get them to continue to kind of play better each game, and the thing Trey's done a nice job is he's created explosive plays. It's not as much with his arm, but it doesn't matter. He's keeping on the field and flipping the field with 30-yard runs is the same as a 30-yard pass. So if he can continue to do that and then kind of eliminate the turnovers young quarterbacks usually have, they should be in every game they got. The interesting thing for me with Trey is, he's just got to keep learning. You got to play good enough defense to all of a sudden not put Trey in a position where he has to go out and throw it, 25 times in the second half. And hopefully they start adapting their game plan to, you're going to have to make Trey a true quarterback, but also some run game. Some of the run game that I used to do with Chris Streveler, right? Chris Streveler can throw the ball, but you just don't get dynamic players that can run with the ball like Strevy used to and what Trey can. Trey's so quick and amazing to watch how fast he is.
Well, it's an interesting conundrum to discuss this because I got friends all over that Edmonton organization in every department. And when they were 0-9, they didn't turn on each other really at all. And McAdoo got, you know what I mean, replaced by Jarius. But that something had to happen. But my point is, some guys say we got the talent. They felt like the talent was there. You know, what was your assessment when this team was struggling? What did you think they were missing? And has that been fixed?
Well, certainly, they're in a lot of games early in the season, and then they would make critical errors that hurt them. But more than anything, they didn't put any points on the board early in the year, Rod. Right? They just couldn't score enough to keep up with other football teams. And Trey's been able to keep them on the football field and drive they put up 30 points the last 2 weeks, I believe. So, if you're starting to put up numbers like that, you can be in games and win football games. And defensively, I think that early in the year they were not able to stop people running the football. They're worse than the CFL against the run. I think they've improved that. So I think they're just getting better. Now they just got to find an opportunity to win a football game. That was a great game last week against Calgary. I was amazed that Calgary came back to win that game. So, and hats off to Calgary last week. Jake Mayer, he's gotten a lot of flack this year, but I mean, I'm looking at his fourth quarter stats in my prep. He's 13 of 15, 119 yards, 5-yard TD rush, 3 TD drives at the end of the game. It was an awesome game to watch.
I'm just checking the standings here. Always enjoy chatting football with you. I'm really enjoying this, and we have a lot of Argos fans, both fans and staff that watches this show. So I'm interested to get your take on what's gone on there. It's not like anything changed. They won the Grey Cup last year. It's not new, right? It's still Pinner and Murph and Dinner and those guys. But it's special, man. And I'm asking you because you spend enough time in Toronto. Is there any talk, any hype? At 9-1, they can clinch a playoff spot with a win Saturday. They're favored by 10. Is this town giving them was that town giving them some respect that they deserve?
I haven't been to a game, but the last game I heard people were at, the crowd were better. It was, there is more talk about it, and that's. Hopefully the organization can keep pushing and spending money to try to create an atmosphere there. Just because I think about back in 1990, was it 96 and 97 when Doug Flutie was there? And I know they played back that was in the old Rogers Center days. But like Doug Flutie was like one of the best players in the history of this league, if not the best, and they couldn't put more than 10,000 people in the building. So I know it's been, an issue. They've done a really good job reaching out to younger kids, trying to get them into the facility and try to bring more people in. Hopefully, I mean, they've got their coach locked up for 3 years. They've got their quarterback locked up for 3 years. And they got a good young football team that's a lot of fun to watch. It's winning games. So hopefully that can drag some older season ticket holders or create a bunch of new ones.
Well, you said you were with the Argos when you came into the league. I'm calling it the pinball effect. And why he wasn't involved for a period of time, I don't know the answer to that. But I know since he's got involved, magic's happened. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, here's a couple of things, I think. I think they've done a really good job. Like, I was on the sideline last week standing around those players, and they are big. They are big, athletic, and physical. Their roster is a very impressive-looking athletic group. So their scouting department has done a spectacular job of bringing players in, athletes, and putting a lot of competition on that roster. They got a lot of good football players, not just re-signing veterans. They have young players who stepped up and played. Obviously, the quarterback's done a good job. But the thing I think pinball has had a really good effect, two things. There's a lot of Calgary West people talk about the Toronto Argonauts. Well, Corey Mace comes over as a D coordinator, works well with players. He basically was able to poach some of the best young players at Calgary, and they were able to pay some of their players. And so all of a sudden, you got Corey Mace bringing some players over. Well, then you got pinball. Can you imagine being a free agent and all of a sudden pinball gets on the phone with you and says, "Hey, I want you to come over here." And, so he can recruit. And certainly they've, when you have a quarterback, and I think some guys had to trust that they had a quarterback, but when you're successful there, then guys go, all right, I'll go over there because I know we're going to have a chance to win.
Yeah. Hey, the players told me They said for the most part, Murph did a lot of the work, dinner too, and then in the end, they brought in Pinner as the closer. And he closed the deal.
Absolutely.
So that's all.
Yeah,
hey, that's all that it takes. A quick one. Monty in Saskatoon wants to know who you're picking: Riders or Bombers in the Banjo Bowl.
I'm gonna give the Bombers. I think both of them are good football teams. I just think the home game match will go to the Bombers. Sometimes it doesn't flip back and forth, but I am going to flip it back to Winnipeg. But I'll tell you, Sass did a great job last week. I talked about it on the panel. Like at halftime, Zach had pretty much one drive that had 100 yards. He had 3 passes that equal close to 100 yards. Besides that, he had 2 yards in the first half. So Winnipeg's going to have to find a way to run the football. They're going to have to get their play action going because it looks like the secondary's done a really good job handling the downfield stuff. So maybe the play action opens some stuff up. But I think Winnipeg in front of the home crowd should get the win.
They've won 6 of the last 7. I read the game notes. Thank you, Lapo. Break a leg tomorrow. You'll do great. Appreciate you.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate you having me on.
CFL on TSN's Paul LaPolice joining us. He'll be doing color tomorrow for his second time.